horses. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, it's Solo here, aka the Skeleton King, also the Shirted King today. I don't know why, but we're just gonna change it up. So I normally don't like making videos like this, where I record audio and gameplay at the same time, but for this video I think it would be the best. Because I'm not just gonna have you watch me clear another map, which I know you've come to expect from my channel is just map clears until your eyes bleed, but today we're not doing that. Today what we're doing is we're talking about NatSet and more information on Blade Scent. So I have my snap gear, right? Which is not much different than the last video. But yeah. But I just have a pretty meh, what's it called? Oh yeah, of course I snapped that too. Pretty meh NatSet. And I don't think NatSet is that much better. Or let me rephrase that. It doesn't look that much better. But when I switched to NatSet, my clear speed went up a lot. And I didn't really understand why. Because I think the PDR is nice. I actually hit max res, so that wasn't an issue. I think the mana and lifesteal per hit is actually pretty good too. So although I don't recommend people to get full trank set as a necromancer unless you just stumble upon it, I would recommend full nat set for at least Blade Scent, Summon Scent. I think it's just an amazing starting thing that just gets you right into mapping. Although you can map literally straight when you finish Hell. It's just a broken build. Well, is it broken? It's pretty good. But it's ignore target defense. I think that's what makes my clear speed feel so much better. And it's actually funny because before I switched to Nat set, I was actually kind of thinking, I feel like my clear speed should be increasing faster than it is, and I wonder if the issue is a low attack rating. But it's not really. It's not really a low attack rating. And if you can see this, which is, God, I forget who crunched these numbers. I think Zarthrion. Zirion. He's an assassin in Assassin Discord channel. But I copy and pasted his work, and it talks about how much AR actually affects your damage. Okay, so here's not much AR, and then the damage, and then a lot of AR and the damage. And we're looking at it, and we see something called physical damage, poison length. Okay, mastery explosion, mastery pathing, mastery explosion, mastery pathing. By the way, the mastery is actually, I get it now. It's actually explosion pathing. Okay, the way when I copy and pasted it, it doesn't quite look as good. And what are we talking about when we say explosion pathing? And let's just look at the numbers. So if we have explosion, right, and we see physical damage, whoa, a lot higher, okay? And then we go into pathing, and we see damage is actually not that much higher. And we go to poison damage, and poison damage is the same, and poison length is the same. Poison damage is all the same. But even that gets more complicated. So we can actually see that AR does affect one area, and that's the explosion. So what is the explosion? And by the way, that is a huge increase on damage. Well, now we got to go back into Blade Scent, and Blade Scent is actually much more complicated than you realize. We see this thing. It has an attack rating modifier. It has a damage modifier, like add damage, and then it also does 100% of your weapon damage. Okay, but if you just read this, it explains everything. Set a spinning blade to a patrol between you and target point. Releases a small explosion at each endpoint. That's the explosion. And why is the explosion such a big deal? Well, the explosion actually is affected by your AR, for one. But remember how we talked about that we thought that Blade Sentinel carried Poison Pierce? I believe the main thought process now is it doesn't. But what does carry Poison Pierce is the explosion. And the Poison Pierce on the explosion is literally the entirety of your pierce. It's not even half of your pierce. And I think that kind of adds up with us feeling like you got half of your Pierce when you use Blade Sentinel, because it seemed to match up with the idea that Blade Sentinel carries half of your Fizz Pierce. So the main idea now is that the explosion, which is at the end point of your pathways, that does full Pierce. And it's your pets too. Because remember, a pet of a pet is a pet. That's like logic. That's logic math right there, okay? Pet times pet equals pet. You know who would love that? That one black actor. Not David Cheadle. The guy David Cheadle replaced. The guy from Iron Man 1. I don't remember his name. I can remember David Cheadle's name, but not his name. Anyways, he's a moron. But maybe he is right. 1 times 1 equals 1. I mean, 1 times 1 equals 2. Wait, no. Pet times pet equals a pet. Okay, he is just wrong. Wow. No. Son of a bitch. I thought I was going to prove him right. Okay, so. Sorry. This is really tedious to explain, and I think I get it now. So the explosion, we're doing our little patrol path, and it hits the end and does an explosion. The explosion is a normal attack, like your assassin attacking with her claws, but in a 360-degree radius, which is why it's still very effective. So the reason Blade Sentinel is probably as good as it is because of this explosion, which increases the AoE size. It also carries all of your Pierce, but that explosion hit is based on your attack rating. What's funny is the pathing. We see that the damage doesn't change much from pathing, right? Here's explosion with this much AR, an explosion with this much AR, and then pathing with a shit ton of AR, and then pathing with even a higher shit ton of AR. You might be wondering why the numbers are so much higher, right? Okay. Well, that is because there's 2 issues here. For one, the damage doesn't increase much, but that's also because we're going from 30,000 to 52,000. The reason attack rating doesn't matter on the pathing is because the pathing is a pet. Remember we talk about pets and how important they are. Well, pets also have their own scalable AR. So when we go back to the skill, this bonus to AR doesn't matter too much because pets have their own bonus to AR based on character level and pet level. And pet level is basically like your skill level. So it's like, it just gets extra modifiers of like times 100, times 50, etc. And so you're always going to have a shit ton of AR on every single pet. You will almost never worry about attack rating unless you're facing like very specific in-game bosses. Like for Declone T2, I remember golems used to be about 50% chance to hit, which honestly is probably fair for a pet to have that much attack rating against literally the highest of in-game contents in PT2. Okay, so now we've solved all of that, and we solved the fact that the explosion is very nice and also an AoE, and that is why I think the big reason why Nat Set feels so much better than not running Nat Set is because you get a free ignore targets defense. Now, let's say you don't have Nat Set. Should you use Eths? Sure, actually, I would do that now. I would not use a rune for ignore targets defense. I believe there was some other things I wanted to talk about. Is there? Oh, just update on this. I made a Act 3 Light Merc, and I don't think he has the best gear. He needs these fall runes for... Those are sick boots, by the way. But he just has tanky gear on, and he's actually not dying. And I don't think I am that, what's the word for it, that powerful yet, to where I'm surprised I can keep this Merc alive. But like 1,800 health is really nice. He also has a nice amount of defense thanks to the Black Oak Shield. In fact, I might actually start upping these items for more defense. Nice.
Put that to good use.
Yeah, I say that's worth it. The defense didn't change too much on a lot of this, except for that one. Some information on basically how rare it would be to get a +6 claw. And yeah, I think that's it for today. All right, Skelly King out, guys. GG. Actually, there was one other thing I want to talk about. Recently, I've been experimenting on not using Death Sentry on my right click and seeing if my clear speeds increase. The reason I do this is because basically having a level 20 Death Sentry is just doubling the damage. If we're going under the assumption that most of the enemies we're facing are around 10,000 life, Some are much lower, some are much higher, but if you actually get map minions, they're around 8k to 12k, and then some with super high resistances have lower health, and then there's just the big fatties. Usually there's 1 or 2 big fatties in every single map. So if we just go with 10,000, which I think is pretty fair, then basically this at 3 to 5%, we're going to be doing 3,000 to 5,000, 300 to 500 damage per Death Sentry going off, right? Because it's 10k, then it's 1k, then it's 100, so 300 to 500. And putting 20 hard points into it is basically going to triple the damage. And although Death Sentry is still increasing my clear speeds, it is 20 hard points. What I wonder is possibly would a better dump be Dragon Kick until you get Enigma? Which actually brings me to my last final point of, if Nat set is so good, do I think going Ligma will eventually be better? Yes, because the build does too much damage as it is. It really does. You don't need more damage with this build. I think the only way you could need more damage with this build is if you're going pure Fizz, in which case you want to make sure you literally one-shot everything. But there is an option to get around using Ligma, and that's with a Teleport Amulet. You would have to repair this after basically every map, and 25 charges would probably still be a little light, but you could probably make it work. But I'm just at that point where I wonder what would be the most efficient way to use your skill points, and I still think running Death Sentry is better than not running Death Sentry. I just wonder if 20 extra points is really worth it, but like some more add damage from Blade Sentinel doesn't seem good unless you're going pure Fizz. And like Claw Block, I guess I could get more faster block rate, which of course I'm always a fan of FBR breakpoints, but to me the only other place that would be viable would be Dragonflight, just to get the cooldown slightly lower, which honestly, until you get Ligma or you're in-game with using a Teleport Amulet, would probably be another nice place to put your skill points. Well, skill looking out, guys. GG.
Come play with us, Danny.